Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, friends of the Playhouse, and others. Welcome to the internationally acclaimed Monday Night Chaos. Thank you, each and every one of you. Thank you, everybody, for coming in and seeing us tonight. We got a great show for you. At least we're going to try. We're going to do our very best. So I want to send a hearty welcome to each and every one of you. And I want to introduce you to my guest, a good friend, a compatriot over on the 8-Bit Podcast, Kid Shoryuken. Kid, say hello to the folks.
Oh, hello, folks. Jim here from the illustrious Kid Shoryuken Gaming channel here on YouTube. And, boy, I'm ever so happy to be here on Monday Night Chaos.
Well, we're glad to have you, Kid. And also, I want to make sure that everyone goes and checks out Kid Shoryuken. Kid Shoryuken, can you tell them how to get a hold of you?
Oh, well, you can find me right here on YouTube. The channel is called Kid Shoryuken. It's spelled just like it sounds. That's my channel here where I review import games and the like, and I throw in a few other fun little videos every once in a while. And you can also find me on Facebook. The Facebook page is also called Kid Shoryuken, oddly enough, and you can find me doing lots of fun stuff in both of those places.
Fabulous, fabulous. Glad that we can get a hold of you anytime we need you. And Kid, for those of you who don't know, Kid Shoryuken, import reviewer extraordinaire. Import reviews like you have never seen before. Be sure and check them out because they'll get you, fiending for a new fix. Believe me, it does it for me every single time, and that's why I try not to watch this program.
No, put some hair on your chest.
And in other places. But anyway, welcome to our program. As I said, we hope to have a great show for you tonight. I would really like to push this forward to everybody, before we get too far along, to check out what they used to call the description box down there below. You can find all the information to get hold of myself and Kid Shoryuken and find information about the 8-Bit Podcast and all that. And while we're talking about the 8-Bit Podcast, I hope each and every one of you can tune in this Friday, April the 3rd, to check out Pissing in the Live Stream Number 7. Now, we're also in, if I could mention this right now, we are in 8-Bit Podcast year number 4, so that's something quite special. So please be with us on April the 3rd and see what we've got from there. And also check us out on your Facebook, on your Twitter, and all that stuff. And if you think all that shit is lame, well, you're probably right, but that's not the point. The point is that the YouTube subscription box doesn't work, and I figured the best way is to give people what am I talking about? Multiple, I got those words inside out, multiple options in which to get a hold of us. Remember, as soon as you figure out the answers, I change the questions. Don't forget that. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I think we should get this out of the way first and foremost, because something that people are going to want to talk about, you've been talking about it all goddamn day, on all my channels, on my Twitter, on my Facebook. People think, what do you think, Chaos? Did you see WrestleMania 31? Yes, I did. And at this juncture, I would go right over to Kid Shoryuken and say, Kid Shoryuken, did you watch the WrestleMania? But I did that before the program, and he said no. And which kind of put a damper on our conversation. But yes, I did see WrestleMania 31, and people want to know, don't you think it was the worst WrestleMania ever? And other people, don't you think it was the greatest WrestleMania? And I will say this, the same thing. I was talking to my good friend PlayStation Riley on the somewhere, or text message. We're text messaging this morning, and I told him, I've seen worse WrestleManias. If I could stand on nothing else than that, I would say I have seen worse WrestleManias. So, Kid Shoryuken, you've seen some awful WrestleManias, have you not?
I have. Everyone says that WrestleMania 4, I believe, is supposedly historically the worst. I've never seen that one. I think the worst one I've watched from start to finish probably was WrestleMania 9. That was pretty crappy. That was the one where Hogan comes in like right at the end, and Yokozuna challenges him to a match, but he's not the champion. So he challenges him to defend his own belt and then loses in before Bret Hart's even up the ramp.
Yeah, which is very typical of heels to go around waving challenges and waving new won belts to guys who are notorious for beating the piss and shit out of foreign invaders.
Top that with the fact that the guy was like 600 pounds and obviously winded. He was baking in that hot sun because that one was outside in the parking lot at Caesar's Palace. He didn't look like he had a lot left in the tank, and he's like, sure, why not? I'll wrestle Hulk Hogan after barely beating Bret Hart. So. Yeah, that one was pretty shitty from start to finish, pretty much.
You know what? I would typically argue with you, and for a few reasons. Number one, WrestleMania 9 is so amazingly ridiculous that you cannot take it seriously as a sporting event. You just have to sit back and watch the mess unfurl. I would defend it in terms of matches, but really the finishes are all kind of crummy. But the first two matches, Tatanka versus Shawn Michaels and the Steiners versus the Head Shrinkers, are definitely strong matches if you totally ignore the finishes.
Okay, that's true. I mean, Shawn Michaels always put on a good match, and the Steiner brothers as well. And the Head Shrinkers, they're okay, but that's really the Steiner brothers who were super awesome. But just having Giant Gonzalez on the card brings it way down.
Does it bring it way down, or does it bring it way up? Because the Giant Gonzalez, don't get me now. Understand this: the Giant Gonzalez was probably right about within RoboCop territory, wouldn't you say? I mean, that outfit could have been more outlandish than the RoboCop outfit. I want that to be known. I want that to be public knowledge that's. There's so many kids that want to tell me how great WCW was, and when I hear that and I engage these kids in a conversation, I say, that shows me you never saw WCW. You believe, because if you really watch WCW, it's pretty awful. There's matches here and there, just like on all the terrible WCW or WWF cards. In fact, that's something I was talking to Sean this morning about. I said, I cannot figure out, because people who pine for old WCW against new WWE, you're basically got about the same caliber of matches, the same caliber of presentation. It's a media company who has no idea what they're doing.
All the best stuff, going back now and watching older, episodes of Nitro, all of the best stuff was on the undercard. And their undercard was all the cruiserweights. I mean, you had Eddie and Ultimo Dragon and just Rey Mysterio. Those were always awesome matches. It wasn't until recently I became a bigger fan of Lord Steven Regal, or William Regal, just because his matches were always awesome as well. But those were always like undercard and midcard guys, and their main eventers were usually like Hogan and Piper, and I like Piper, but he's I don't know. I went back.
We were old then.
Yes, I went back and rewatched the '96 Starrcade match between Piper and Hogan, and it was pretty lame. And then that guy tries to run into the ring, and then security has to haul him off. And while that's happening, the finish comes, and it was just that wasn't so good.
If anything, that match did is it made the main event at Starrcade '97 look much better by way of comparison.
What was '97?
That was Hogan versus Sting. Speaking of which, there was some shenanigans. There was apparently what they call, I've heard this referred to as a wrestling match between the icon Sting, the 55-year-old balding guy with a bat, versus the 45-year-old, ever-growing nose of Triple H. Or the Sledgehammer versus the Bat, and involved all kinds of run-ins from just old people. If anything I was disappointed with at WrestleMania was just how slowly everybody moved who was supposed to be important. Like, the NWO did a run-in, but run-in, you'll notice I'm using very loosely, because these guys barely sauntered to the ring. Like, DX did a run-in, the Generation X, for those of you who don't remember that far back, and they ran in, because those guys are all in their early 40s. The NWO cruises in, a bunch of dudes in their early 50s onto their middle 60s, and barely sauntered in. And, if anything, it was, if I could say nothing else about WrestleMania, it was nice to know those people aren't dead. But then they came out and was like, I wish you were dead. Like, I would rather have seen Bruno Sammartino do a run-in than these guys at this point. Because Bruno at least looks like he could still kick ass. Hogan looks like my friend's grandma who got too much sun. He's all swollen, and he wears those little sunglasses, even though no one will tell him that they're too small for his head. But, you know, all that aside, though, and I want to talk about WrestleMania 4 really quick. I always defend WrestleMania 4, and that's because, number one, I love the Macho Man, and number two, I'm a sucker for a tournament. That's my point of view. Kid, don't you feel that way about a tournament? Don't you love a tournament?
I do love a tournament, and I do like Macho Man. And like I said, I've never actually seen WrestleMania 4 start to finish, so maybe I'm missing something. So.
You know, again, I love a tournament, and I think I've said this on this program before. I don't even care what the sport is. You put one of those fucking brackets there, I want to see who's going to get where. It could be tiddlywinks, it could be badminton, I don't care. I love a tournament bracket. I just love that idea of, you know, a genuine fight to the finish. You know,
you're making a lot of good points there.
I try. That's why people come to the internationally acclaimed Monday Night Chaos, to get good points. That's what we do right here every single week. You know, and also don't forget, featuring Kid Shoryuken.
Yay!
Yeah, that's also very important.
I just wanted to point something out before we went any further. There's a handful of people in the comments section that apparently sat in on the live stream on my channel on Thursday, and apparently they all love Carcamo. So that's
Carcamo. Yes, I've heard of the man they call Carcamo. I understand he's quite making himself known in this little bitty community here on YouTube, and I look forward to hearing more from Carcamo.
He's quite the character.
Quite a bit, and I think that our scene here needs more of that. Definitely need more of that, because otherwise this is just going to turn into Twitch, and we can't have that.
Negative. I agree with that.
Okay, good. I just wanted to, you know. Let's not let this turn into Twitch. I know that Twitch is really over right now and so on. I'm not trying to say like I'm on Team YouTube or anything, but yeah, that stuff going over on Twitch. I don't. A lot of people ask me why I don't stream on Twitch, and I think it's because maybe I just value my privacy a bit too much. That seems why I feel that way, because it seems like Twitch is a platform for people who are hopelessly addicted to, and I don't know, you may have seen this before. Early in our scene, years ago, what got really popular, and still comes around every so often, are the 24-hour live stream gaming marathons. Zelda Dungeon does one, Pat the NES Punk and those guys, they do one. The Clan of the Grey Wolf guys, they do one. There's quite a few people that do that like on an annual basis. The Twitch thing really seems like people who need that every week, if not every day. And now I understand that that's a way to really interface with your fan base. That's important. That's very important. I don't think you people could tolerate seeing me all day, every day. And I'm sure there's somebody who might want to take that challenge. It's not a challenge. I'm just saying. And now, Kid, I want to get your perspective on this, because you and I would talk about these things every so often. Do you watch anybody over on Twitch.tv?
I occasionally do. People that are friends of mine, no one popular, by the way. It's just occasionally I'll see a friend of mine post on Facebook that they're streaming on Twitch, and it'll be some people that I've known here from YouTube for, I don't know, years going on, you know, half a decade or so. So I'll go and watch them, and that's really more just to have a chance to chat with them than anything. I personally don't use Twitch just because I can't game and twerk at the same time. So that's why I.
Well, I mean, I've seen you twerk. You, sir, are no slouch.
It ain't bad.
I can't have you on my program and have you saying bad things about yourself. No, that's not true. I've seen you. You, sir, are a seasoned veteran, and don't ever take that away from yourself.
I take pride in it, but I'm just not a multitasker.
No, that's not true. I've seen you become intoxicated and bullshit at the same time. Don't tell me that you can't do more than one thing at one time. I've seen it. I know it to be true. So anyway.
Anyone that's ever seen one of my 8-bit podcast performances will know all about that. I love how that one, at least there are those little video screens at the bottom for all those people that complained that I didn't talk enough. Just take a look at that little video screen down there and you'll see why.
Well, not only that, you could have your own little show right there. You could be sitting there mocking me or something like this, and then, having a great time unto yourself, but also taking a bit of the drink, and that's why we're here. I don't think we'd be able to tolerate this as good as we do, as well as we do, if it wasn't for the drink. But that's I don't want to promote that too early on the program. We've only just begun, baby. Let me tell you, Daddy, we got all kinds of questions going on in the comment section, so if you guys have any questions, please feel free to drop them down below, and we'll do our best to answer your questions. There's always great questions down there, and as I've said before, this comment section just takes on a life of its own. And if you guys don't have anything to talk about, yes, I'm wearing a Deicide shirt because down with religion and shit, or something like that. But anyway, there was something. Lawson Lee asked, did anybody play Dragon's Dogma? I didn't. Kishore, do you have any familiarity with that series? I've heard the name come up a few times.
Crap. I've heard that name as well. I have not played Dragon's Dogma, though, I'm afraid.
Oh, well, I feel kind of left out because I shouldn't say I feel left out. I feel like I'm part of the group then because I have no experience with it either. So there's that. Sigma Sean says, what do you think the Club Nintendo Elite Status rewards are going to be? I think they've announced all of those, if I'm not mistaken, unless I missed something. But I think that everything they have announced, that's pretty much it, because they're going to be wrapping it up fairly soon. I don't know. I know that I used to get some digital games. And Kishore, I know you don't do the Club Nintendo thing, right?
That's correct. I'm not a part of that scene.
Oh, well, that's a shame. Do you have any commentary on this has come up quite a bit, actually, the shrinking population of Japan? Do you have any sort of insight on that? Do you have any opinions about such notions?
It's kind of a combination of things. I guess their women are getting stronger and their men are getting a little weaker. I mean, I don't know if that's a good way to put it, but they're not as. I mean, they're just. I mean, they're still. Yeah, well, it's not. I mean, they're still promiscuous, but it's like just marriage and monogamy is a less popular thing as more people become more career-oriented people. I know
liberated and so forth.
Liberated. I know that stats show that the average Japanese these days are getting married at later and later ages. I think in their mid-30s by now, and they're having fewer children. They also live longer than anyone else in the world, so that's gonna wreak havoc on their ability to sustain Social Security in the near future. If A, they don't start fucking a lot more, or B, if they just don't loosen up maybe some immigration laws a little bit in order to, I guess, continue to sustain the population, get some more people in there paying taxes and stuff like that. I personally, people, I see what you're saying there in the comments. I do what I can. I'm just one man. But it's a sad state of affairs, and hopefully, they'll wake up from this and they'll realize that career is good. That's great. I mean, that's how they've gotten to be the third largest economy in the world, despite only being about the size of California. It's through that hard work and stick-to-itiveness that they have, but maybe they'll loosen up, start popping out a few more kids, and things will be all right. And like I said, I'm going to do my part. So. Yeah.
And we thank you, because without you, I mean, I don't know what I would do if there was no one to help make Japanese technology continue to be a thing. So I commend you. For doing your part, and maybe they should borrow some people from China, because China seems to be bursting at the seams with folks.
Yeah, China has a lot of people. I did want to say real quick, I saw an article that was pretty interesting. I guess it's the new face of Japan, or Japan's changing ethnically. The most recent Miss Universe Japan is half African American, half Japanese, and that's, I don't know, some people, like some old-timey Japanese people, aren't cool with it. They're like, she's not full Japanese, she's not real Japanese, which is kind of laughable considering that people in that region of the world have been interfucking for centuries and centuries. But
those are the people that gave us Hawaiian people. Don't forget that.
There's always that. So yeah, that's kind of cool. Maybe that's further evidence of them kind of culturally taking in and putting back out. And I don't know where I'm going with that. Let's move on.
I just think it would really. I think it's a bit of culture shock because this is the first time you're looking at pretty Japanese women, attractive Japanese women models with asses. This is an uncommon thing, and I understand it's a bit of culture shock. Let me make this very clear. This is so important because we are introducing asses without the use of McDonald's, and that could not possibly be a bad thing. I want to make that 100% clear that I am very much in favor of this, and I hope this sort of thing continues because I know it won't be long until we have the perfect Japanese woman.
Yeah, I've also noticed this trend. I checked, and it's true. It's happening.
And isn't it a great time to be alive? It really.
There's a lot of someone has a lot of theories about me. I'm a walking sperm dispenser. I hide my secret identity with my glasses.
You live in the messiest phone booth I've ever seen.
Hey, it's all. Hey, it could all be true. You never know. I'm a very secretive man.
Yeah, you never know. Jason Rogerson, who's here on a pretty regular basis, wants to know when he's going to see the 5-day-long Yellkaos stream. You don't want that, man. You have no idea what it is that you are asking. I don't think you could handle it. I don't think I could handle it. I don't think the internet could handle to look at me for 5 straight days. In fact, they talked about Kim Kardashian breaking the internet. This would really break the internet to have to deal with me for 5 straight days. I insist. And that would be just me. Imagine when all my fucking crazy-ass friends come along. Oh, boy, it could be something completely different. There's a lot of people, suddenly, that want to have a discussion about the announcement. And I knew this was going to happen. It hasn't. It's interesting. Nintendo announced, I think, late last week that Zelda Wii U, the big Zelda Wii U that everybody's been waiting on, has been delayed. Now, I saw this coming miles away because anything worth doing obviously takes longer than you expect it to. And someone drew a correlation to the delay on Ocarina of Time for the Nintendo 64. And that's actually a very good... I mean, I'm surprised that everyone's memory goes back that far. But yeah, I remember that was quite the thing. Look how long Pikmin 3 was delayed. Delayed all the way onto a new system. And now when I say that, everyone says, oh no, are they going to delay it onto a new system? No, I don't think so. What would you rather have? Would you rather they delay it, or would you rather they release it a broken mess, which just seems to be the style of the time? Kishore, did you have any thoughts about that? Did you hear anything about this?
I had heard about the delay. Honestly, I kind of anticipated it. That's usually pretty typical for big games like this, and all it could really mean is that they're just going to put some more work into it, and in the long run, you're going to get a better product, and that's good. That's good news.
No, that's going to be a good thing. That's going to be a good thing. And, everyone makes this big deal about it, that, oh, well, they're making us wait. It's like, yeah, well, you guys are dumb enough to wait for girls to know when it's time to have sex with you. If you can believe that bullshit, then you can believe any other sort of bullshit. That's right. I said it, goddammit. But anyway, and someone was there was talk about the new Nintendo system that was briefly discussed during a press briefing a little while ago, the Nintendo NX, and people think that means the end for the Wii U. It's like, I don't know what you're talking about, because the Wii U is the only system, well, aside from the 3DS and the Xbox 360, I think, that are pumping out steady software that's even worth looking at. And you could conceivably say that digitally on all the systems, there's software coming out, once a week or multiple titles a week, but it's this indie crap that always comes across as, and now I guess I'm casting aspersions in a very broad sense, and that's unfair of me, but so much of it every single week is just stuff that you would probably play if it were free, but nothing I could see paying any real money for. But I just think that as the news cycle continues to slow, people are just dying for new news. And I could be totally out on a limb and wrong about that. But and there's always talk about the Nintendo NX being the successor to the Wii U. It's like they haven't even talked about this system. I think I brought this up last week. They haven't even talked about this system. It's a name, Nintendo NX. It's not even a logo. So I don't understand why there's all of a sudden all this talk all this talk going on, because it really seems as though, and the way I feel, I think the Nintendo NX is going to be a handheld system anyway. So that always seems to be. Kid Shuriken, does that seem right? It seems like the handheld system comes before.
I suppose so. I mean, they're with the 3DSs. I mean, those are still making decent money. I don't know why they would need to put out another handheld to be a successor of that one when it's still doing okay. Yeah, but like you said, it's just a name thus far. It shouldn't really surprise people that there's something in the works. As soon as a company puts out a new console, they're already working on the next one. So it shouldn't be really surprising to anyone.
Well, and it's the only rational thing to do. Rationality in video games, oh my God, imagine that. But it just seems like the right thing to do. But all that aside, no one seems to notice that when something like this happens, oh, they're doomed, they're fucked, no one's paying any attention to them. Like, look how much commotion you made over a blip in a fucking press conference. So don't tell me that Nintendo doesn't know how to get the blood boiling and to get people to pay attention. I talked about Nintendo moving into the mobile market last week, so I'm not going to bore you with all of that noise. But that's just the way I feel about it. Somebody asked, I saw somebody ask, somebody was asking a guitar question, asked, what is the technique that is of utmost importance to perfect? And I'll tell you this right now, the technique that is most important, and you might not understand this, but is your style. Play it your way, and that is the most important thing. So, Kid Shoryuken, do you have any guitar advice for the kids?
Guitar advice. I guess you're right. I mean, I watched instructional videos that are, pick like this, and your wrist should move this way and set it this way. But really, everybody's different. You're not gonna do your fretting the same way as the next guy. Your fingers aren't gonna have the same kind of dexterity and stretchiness as a Paul Gilbert or someone like that. You're gonna find your own way that you're comfortable with picking and fretting and all that good stuff. And I think that's the beginning. When you find a position and a method that you're comfortable with, that's when you'll start to improve.
Absolutely. And above all, if it hurts, stop that. You're doing it wrong. That's what your brain is trying to tell you. There's a lot of guys, a lot of great guitar players that you never heard of because they didn't stop doing that when it hurt, and now they can't move their fingers as well as they used to. If you don't believe me, there was a gentleman named Vito Bratta that used to play for a band called White Lion, and he had this really bad habit of playing laying on his back. And as he found out, that's really bad for the tendons, and he almost lost the use of his left hand by doing something just like that. So, God, all kinds of bad news on this program this week. But above all, work on your style, and if it hurts, stop doing that. And if you can't go fast, well, then you don't have to go fast. I don't know who made this rule that to be a seasoned guitar player, you have to play at 300 beats per minute. That's no one made that rule. If you don't believe me, you can look at Pink Floyd's David Gilmour. David Gilmour can make you cry with 3 notes. I know because he did it to me. Look, see? Well, I'm not doing it right now. But the point is, it happened. And so there's that. But
look at the same time, you could look at someone like Michelangelo Baccio, who can play, I don't know, a million, beats a minute, whatever, with his stupid quad guitar, and its nitro sucks. Just makes some of the shittiest fucking songs ever. But he's fast, And then he made that. Nobody would even give a shit if he didn't make that stupid instructional video where he was like, "No, I'm going to give you the keys to the Lamborghini." Because he looks like an idiot. He looks like an asshole.
That poor ass motherfucker never had no Lamborghini.
People like to laugh at him. That's it. Like, he plays super fast, but he's a complete tool, so nobody cares. No.
Is that all of your feelings about Michelangelo Badio?
Yeah, that about sums it up.
Okay, well that's good. That's good. And come back next week where Kid Sure You can shits all over John Sykes from Whitesnake.
Yeah.
Or whoever. I mean, I guess you could just throw up guitar players and then we could just shit all over them. But
I prefer to shit all over dead guitar players though.
Oh, all right. So just Jimi Hendrix and Stevie Ray Vaughan.
I can't shit on them though. You got to give me something I can work with.
All right. Well, I'll think of somebody. All
right.
Somebody wants us to shit all over Jeff Beck. I don't know why you'd want to. Why Jeff Beck? I thought Jeff Beck did his best.
I guess I would have to shit on some living guitar players because there's probably some still alive that I don't like. Probably.
If anything I could really say is, and I hate to generalize like this, but just this new crop of Keith Merrow, Jeff Loomis devotees.
Mm-hmm.
There is more to life than sweep arpeggios. I don't want to, and the gent thing, which is really just lazy ass progressive metal. Again, there's more to life than sweep arpeggios. And really expensive equipment. There's more to it than that. And after all, it's rock and roll. How much do you really need to sink into rock and roll? Jam Master C wants to know: are we excited for Mighty Number 9? Sort of. I guess I was more excited when it was first announced. I didn't think it would take this long. Kid, do you have any feelings about it?
That's cool. I am a big Megaman fan, so it's something I'll probably give a try. But to be complete, I don't know why I haven't gotten super excited for it though. But I don't know. At this point, I'm just kind of like, meh, whatever. I heard about it a long ass time ago, and then, like you said, it's been in development for ever, and now I've kind of cooled on it, I guess.
Yeah, it looks to be neat. I know it had a lot of drama surrounding it, and everyone quickly forgot it when they got all up in arms and got their panties in a bunch about Anita Sarkeesian and blah 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 blah. But the fact remains, if it's good, I'll check it out. If it isn't, I won't. So there's that. There was a game that I was really looking forward to. I don't really so much ever since Gunman Clive 2 came out on Nintendo 3DS. And if you cannot, if you need to satiate your Mega Man fix, I recommend Gunman Clive 2. I was going to say exclusively on the Nintendo eShop, but that's actually not true. That can be found, I think, on the Apple App Store and a few other places. But Gunman Clive 2, check that one out. I recommend that one very highly. Let me see. Everyone's bitching and complaining again about the Wii U and how the Wii U's dead. No, it isn't. Yes, it is. No, it isn't. Yes, it is. Biogenesis wants to know when I'm going to show off my NES and Super NES collection. Did I do that already? Now I can't remember. Those are big collections. So eventually, I hope to get. It's kind of a mess in there where I keep all the games in the part of my house I call the vault. But eventually, you're probably going to be disappointed because it's a lot like everybody else's NES collection. There's a lot of good games, and then there's a whole lot more crap. And then there was Barbie.
It was on its own level.
No, it's true. It's true. Absolutely true. Kid Sure You can. You have a pretty strong. Do you have a strong Famicom collection?
I do. I have quite a lot of Famicom. Probably a couple of hundred Famicom games.
A couple of hundred of Famicom. Fantastic. And what's your pride and joy out of that collection there?
Probably my Kunio-kun games and my Rockman collection. And then some other kind of cool stuff, box copies of Sweet Home, really like mint condition, resealed copies of like Mother and Final Fantasy II. Lots of cool stuff like that.
That's good. I've always wanted to have a hefty Famicom collection for myself, but I've got too much stuff. I think very much like you. I've still just got too much stuff, and so yeah. And apparently Barbie is a new level of hell no. again, more people people are saying that the Wii U is unofficially dead. Commentary. Well, if it's unofficial, what's the fucking problem? The Wii U is great. If you want it, go get it. And I understand they're really cheap on the Nintendo.com to find them refurbished. They're really cheap. Check it out. I'm on here every single week telling you how great it is. Why bother listening to me? Just plunk down the cash. You'll have a great time. You really will. And if you don't, well, then don't. Adam Erickson says, do you have YY World?
I do.
You do. Can you talk about... I'm not familiar with that one. Can you talk about YY World?
There's a couple of... they're called Konami YY World. The first one, it has you start out playing as Konami Man and Konami Woman, some discontinued Konami mascots, and you go throughout various levels and you rescue other famous Konami characters like Simon Belmont, Goemon, Mikey from the Goonies is in it, a bunch of others, Twinbee. You rescue them, and then you can use them throughout the levels as well. And then there was a sequel as well, and they're pretty cool. They're action platformers where you can use multiple Konami characters. They're pretty sweet.
All right, fantastic. Nitro Java wants to know, what is, between you and me, our favorite 3D fighting game, and what is the worst fighting game you've ever played? I got to think about the favorite 3D fighting game, but Kid, you're better with this. What's the worst fighting game you've ever played?
Probably the worst fighting game I've ever played is, I believe the English title is called Shadow War of Succession, and it's on the 3DO. It's awful. It was meant to be a Mortal Kombat knockoff. It controls really, really bad. Horrible sound, graphics are awful, and then there's the opportunity kind of to do fatalities like you would in Mortal Kombat. You get that dizzy animation, and you can finish them off. But they didn't actually program any fatalities into the game, so all you can do is just hit them with a normal attack, and it's over. It's really, really, really bad. Yeah, Shadow War of Succession. It's just awful game.
Wow, a bunch of games actually sprung to mind, and I don't know if they're genuinely terrible games, and I know they're games that I just couldn't get into. One was on the Atari Jaguar called Kasumi Ninja. That's one of those games that other people have talked about it, and every time I've had a chance to play it, which has been like 2 or 3 times in my life, I said there's got to be something, because I'm one of those messed up in the head collectors, and I'm this way about the Atari Jaguar and the Philips CDI. There's got to be something worth playing on this fucking machine. And as it turns out, I'm kind of wrong, but Kasumi Ninja is one of those, and another one that's not a good game, but I like it, was called Time Killers.
Okay, I know that one.
Time Killers, and I can't remember who did Time Killers off the top of my head. And then the other one, I don't know if this even counts as a fighting game. It was on the Neo Geo, SNK Neo Geo. It was called 3 Count Bout. It was sort of a fighting wrestling game hybrid, and that game does nothing. It just hurts. The whole game is wiggling the fuck out of the joystick and mashing the buttons really hard. And sorry, everybody. And you gotta hit it like with your fist to get it to register, and that's how you get yelled at in the arcade. So those are the ones that really, I don't know if those all totally count, but what were you gonna say, Kid?
Oh, I was gonna say I also like 3 Count Bout. That one's pretty fun.
I don't. I want to like it, but it's just not fun to play. Especially that motherfucker with the chain. I forget his name. He can hit you from all the way across the goddamn screen. It's like, well, this isn't even a game. This is just robbery.
I always thought the guy with the chain kind of looked like Ricky Morton. He's got a big blonde mullet.
Kind of like Ricky Morton. I swear he was ripped off. There was a game. Oh, who did? I think it was Taito Tag Team Wrestling. There was a guy with a mohawk, and I swear it's the same guy. I swear
it's the same Ricky Morton knockoff.
It's the same Ricky Morton knockoff. Everybody was either Ricky Morton or Vader back then. But the favorite 3D fighting games. I'm trying to think of a 3D fighting game that I really like. One that I guess Virtua Fighter 2 I thought was really good. Or at least was a lot of fun for me to play. I'm trying to think of something else. Kid, you got any other? You're the big, more into fighting games than I am. 3D fighting games.
Yeah, I've always really liked Tekken. That's a series that's kept getting. I really enjoyed Tekken 2. Tekken 3 was excellent. I used to have Tekken 5 tournaments at my house when I was a teenager. That was always a lot of fun. The Tekken Tag Tournament 2 was really awesome. So I've always liked Tekken. And then there are some Capcom fighting games that are rendered in 3D but play more like 2D fighters, like Rival Schools and Plasma Sword. I really, really like those as well. And Street Fighter EX. Those are also pretty fun.
Oh, I forgot about Street Fighter EX. See, that's again the Street Fighter games. You really have to look at the specific one to understand what you're talking about, I guess. Because I'm so old. I'm old enough to where all the Street Fighters just kind of melt together, just like all the Mortal Kombat games. So I wish they would have had different names for them. I really do.
There's a lot of them.
No doubt about that. No doubt about that. Super Saiyan 3 Domon asks, are we excited for the new Daredevil show on Netflix? I didn't even hear about this, and no. Kid, did you hear anything about? Do you have the Netflix?
I don't have Netflix. I did see the trailer for the new Daredevil series. The trailer made it look pretty good, at least. And was I excited for it? Not necessarily. I was like, oh, cool, a Daredevil show. What that was about, as far as I'm not the biggest Daredevil fan. I like him enough, but I'm not like huge on Daredevil really.
Yeah, he's a blind guy that thirsts for justice.
So. He's the man without fear.
Oh, that's right. He's the man without fear, just like Hulk Hogan and so on.
Yeah, lots of people.
Maxim Index wants to know, have I played more of the Fire Emblem series? Define more. I've played many of the Fire Emblem series. The only ones I haven't played are the ones that are still in Japanese, and I haven't found that there's a fan translation of any kind. That's why I'm working on learning Japanese, just so I don't need fan translations anymore. And that way I'll know what the hell Kid Shoryuken's saying when I don't know what he's saying.
That's good. That's a good reason as any to pick up a new language.
I think so. And I'm trying to think of another reason, but well, that way I guess that way I can go to the real sushi restaurants. I don't know. I'm sure there's a better reason for it. But yes, I've played most of the Fire. I've played almost all of the Fire Emblem games that are available in English. My favorite, of course, being Fire Emblem Awakening. There are people that will argue with me on that, but it's just so good. Oh, Cal Milk wants to know my favorite Fire Emblem. I already said it. Ha! I was saying it while you were thinking it or typing it. Now, Fire Emblem Awakening, my favorite, just because everything comes together fantastically, and there's a casual difficulty if you're not into that whole sort of thing, which I think is great. If it can appeal to more people, but you have that option, I think that's a great thing. And it's amazing to me. That's something that's interesting to me. Because this comes up on the program now a lot more, is just how Fire Emblem and strategy games apparently are experiencing quite a resurgence. Kid Shoryuken, have you noticed this? Because this has been brought to my attention a few times.
Strategy games?
Yes, that's what I've heard.
I'll have to take your word for it. I'm kind of out of the loop, really, on what's big.
See, I said the same thing. I said I noticed maybe a little, but not a lot, and there are people that want me to believe that there's a bunch of it.
I have to imagine maybe it's more of a handheld thing, PS Vita and 3DS games, maybe, because those are games that don't really strategy RPGs. You can do those with limited resources. You don't really need to put that on a PS4 or an Xbox One or something like that. It's not really the type of game that demands that kind of high power.
I understand that a lot of the mobile MMOs have moved or are embracing the strategy, quote-unquote strategy RPG. I think that's kind of a misnomer because most games that are primarily strategy RPG is almost nil to be found.
Okay, I want to address a couple of things here. Somebody asked if I like pachinko parlors. I like being in them just because it's really noisy and everything is flashing and
It's like Chuck E. Cheese.
yeah, that's always fun. So I like being in them. I don't really care to play pachinko though. And then somebody wants to know what my favorite episode of Seinfeld is.
The one with Frogger.
No, it might be the one where they open the Kenny Rogers Roasters across the street from Kramer's apartment, and the light from the chicken sign is keeping him awake, so he starts to strike, and Jerry doesn't want him to strike because Jerry's friend is now the manager of the Kenny Rogers Roasters, and Kramer becomes addicted to the chicken, and I don't know. I just thought it was funny. And then there's kind of a role reversal when they start sleeping in each other's apartments. Kramer becomes much more mellow like Jerry, and Jerry starts to freak out, and because he's on no sleep because the sign is keeping him awake. I like the Kenny Rogers Roasters episode. Thank you for asking me what my favorite Seinfeld episode is. That was kind of an off-topic thing, but yeah.
That's great, and it was always takes balls. Now you guys are free to ask me about I Love Lucy, because if you ask me what's your favorite Seinfeld, the one where they're in the cafe. I have no fucking idea. I like Curb Your Enthusiasm a little.
If you say your favorite episode of Lucy is any one other than the one where they're making the pies, you're ridiculous.
Making the pies? You mean making the chocolates?
Or the chocolates, or were they chocolates?
See, you don't even know what you're talking about, you bullshitter, you.
No, were they making chocolates, or were they covering things with chocolates?
No,
they were covering things with chocolate or something.
They were covering nougats with chocolate.
I gotta. I've never been to a cuddle cafe, but I did do plenty of weird shit while I was in Japan. Probably stuff best not talked about on air like this. But yeah, I did plenty of weird stuff over there, but never a cuddle cafe. Sorry.
All right. Well, I don't know a whole lot about that, but speaking of the pachinko parlors, now pachinko parlors, is that still a big thing in Japan? Or at least last you were there?
Sure. Pretty much any arcade you go in, especially the smaller ones. There's always going to be a fairly active pachinko section. That's kind of their loophole around their gambling laws. But yeah, pachinko, still a big deal. I mean, there are pachinko parlors still, just dedicated pachinko parlors. But also in most arcades, you'll find a pachinko section as well.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Schnozzy Schnozborn asked, favorite Kurt Russell movie. Wow, that's way out there. I'm gonna go with that. Oh, my favorite Kurt Russell movie would either be Executive Decision or Overboard with Goldie Hawn.
Overboard is a very good one.
Highly underrated comedy.
Very, very good. I like that one. I go with either, and I'd probably lean more towards Big Trouble in Little China.
Oh, that's a good one.
Or his other John Carpenter movie, The Thing. I like them both, man. I love me some John Carpenter. I love Kurt Russell, and they work really well together. Or Escape from New York.
Okay, Escape from New York.
Three John Carpenter films.
Okay, yeah, there you go. There you go. And speaking of Escape from New York, every time someone mentions Escape from New York, I think of Escape from L.A. And people always talk about how horrible Escape from L.A. is. Like, not unless it's only horrible, the most horrible thing, if you've never seen RoboCop 2. But
no, are you sure you're not thinking of RoboCop 3? Because 2's
RoboCop 3 is pretty goddamn crummy too. But what I mean is, in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't really matter all that much. You still have what you always had. I've always been kind of shocked at this idea, like, oh, they've ruined the franchise. Like, well, not if you don't watch it. It can't hurt you. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
All right, well, fabulous. Oh, we're getting towards the end of the hour. My God, it went by so quickly. But we're going to take a few more questions before we get out of here. And now everybody is putting the boots to the PlayStation Vita. That's such a shame. But that's just the way things are. And I hope to get myself a PlayStation Vita. But one thing I wonder, and a lot of people have asked me this, they say, Mr. Chaos, and I said, yes! And they said, do you plan to get the PlayStation Vita? And I thought about it, and I said I would like to have one, and I would like to try it, more in depth off of that terrible bracket thing that they have at the store, to actually get a chance to handle it. And because a good friend of mine, my friend Chad, had a Vita when it first came out, and he's not good about keeping his handheld clean, and so I didn't want to touch it, so I didn't touch it. And but I don't know that I would have time for another handheld. That's something that bothers me because of how much time I spent with my 3DS, and then of course I play Game Boy Advance games on my DS Lite. I don't know that I would have time for another handheld. Kitchurikan, do you have time for a handheld in your life?
No. I play a couple of games on my phone. I have some handhelds. I have a Game Boy, a Neo Geo Pocket, and I have some Wonder Swans back there. I never touch any of them, to be completely honest.
So you don't have a handheld that you carry with you?
No, I don't.
That's interesting because as as us guys on the Hate Bit podcast, as we're getting a little bit older, we are starting to cater to different demographics, and that's something I'm curious about. I know that's completely off topic from what everyone else wants to talk about, but I want to see, how much time that we really have in our lives to play games. And I know a lot of people play games on their phones or on their tablets, and they're not paying any money for them, so that's where your gaming industry is going. But that's something I'm interested in, and I hope to expand upon later on. And Kitchurikan, I've never asked you this. Do you gamble at all?
I like to gamble, but I don't so much recently. It's been a few years, but I did used to. I never was big on cards or anything, but I used to like to take bets on sporting events, in particular boxing.
Okay, that's interesting, sports betting, because I talked about this on the program last week. Something that I've been increasingly garnering interest in over the years is, and stop me if I've talked about this already, my interest in casino gaming. And are there any casinos near you over there in Texas?
There is actually. There's one in Eagle Pass. It's about, I think, an hour's drive from here. It's like I think it's an Indian reservation casino, maybe. I'm not sure. I've never been there.
Okay, well, have you been to any of them recently at all?
The last time I went to a casino, it was probably when I was a teenager. My mom was working at a casino once when I was a teen. It was the Coushatta Indian Casino in Louisiana. That was a hella long time ago, and I wasn't old enough to gamble anyway, but I could get discounts on food from the buffet, so I did. Oddly enough, though, two of my best friends from my childhood are now dealers at that same casino.
Oh, fabulous. So you got yourself an inn over there at the casino. Good for you.
Indeed, I do.
But that's something that I think, and I just want to explore this for a few minutes, really quickly. Something that I was thinking about, and you and I, we can probably talk about this later on after the program, but I want to bring it up right now just to make it a conversation piece and get people talking about this sort of thing, is about, there's all this talk about the decline in the popularity of traditional casinos and casino gaming, such as card games and things for wagering purposes. And especially in one of my favorite places, Las Vegas, Nevada, casino gaming is as a waning in popularity. And the overall response in recent years, which I think is a terrible idea, is to simply recede the amount of time and effort being paid into the casino and transfer that to other things like food and beverage and things like that. And that leads to two questions. Number one, what happens when that's not viable anymore? That, and also I think that's something that we talk a lot about the corruption of game coverage in our overall scene, and I think that people our age really need to be thinking about covering games for an older demographic, and people don't recognize that a lot of what goes on in casinos, those are video games. They're just wager-based video games, and I think that more time needs to be spent cultivating the culture of those games, because I think that's going to be you're not going to believe it, but that's going to be a very important part of electronic gaming inside the next 5 to 10 years. That's something I genuinely believe. I just wanted to bring that up because that's something I'm going to be talking about a lot more in the next few years, because I know you guys have been around for a few years, and hopefully we'll see you for the next few years. But we're getting towards the end of the program, so we're going to take a couple more questions, and then we're going to get out of your hair. And I want to thank everybody for coming out and checking out our program this week, the internationally acclaimed Monday Night Chaos. And I want to remind everybody, before I forget, to look down below, check out all the information, all the social media contacts, and be with us on April the 3rd, Friday. I think that's 5 p.m. Pacific time, 8 p.m. Eastern time, for Pissing in the Live Stream number, however many fingers I have, number 7, however many fingers I have. But let me see here. There was a question I wanted to get to, and I lost it. Ah, crap, I lost it, and I was going to bring it up. Now I'm looking like an asshole in front of the internet. That's a shame. I hate when that happens. Fuck, I lost it. Oh, well, I'll have to answer this other question. Cordin Hudima asks, Kid, have you been to Freshness Burger or Moss Burger in Japan?
I've been to Moss Burger.
And how are things in Moss Burger?
Pretty good. Love me a nice teriyaki burger.
Do they do the Kobe beef over there?
Yeah, pretty sure. I don't know. I never really paid much attention to what they were putting in. I didn't go to Moss Burger as much as I just went to McDonald's. But I prefer the McDonald's in Japan. For whatever reason, it tastes better. And the servers are much cuter, too. It's more...
And soon they'll have asses.
Yeah, if they don't already. Yeah, I went to Moss Burger every so often. I wasn't like a regular there. I did frequent McDonald's more, but more than that, I think I spent a lot more time eating curry and yakiniku and sashimi and things like that. I went to a lot more izakayas than anything. So, and ramen. I ate a shit ton of ramen. So, but yeah, Moss Burger is okay.
All right, another rousing endorsement from Kid Shoryuken right here on Monday Night Chaos. Anyway, I want to thank each and every one of you for coming out. We hope you had a great time. Thank you for your questions. As I said before, you guys are fabulous, and I want to thank you for coming out each and every time. I am the immortal Yellkaos. I want you to say goodbye to my good friend Kid Shoryuken, import game reviewer extraordinaire.
Yay, that's me. Boy, it's fun being on the YouTube and having a wacky time on the Yellkaos program. Thank you.
And thank you for another wacky time. So anyway, you guys are great. I've been Yellkaos. That's been Kid Shoryuken. You guys take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and I'll see you on Friday. Pissing in the live stream. You have no excuse. You have been warned. Be there. Thanks, folks. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.